For more on this, we're now joined by Professor Dirk Kotze from the Department of Political Sciences at the University of South Africa, and he will talk to us more about the IFP National Policy Conference, and he joins us via our video link. Professor, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on SABC News. Of course, we know that the IFP is meeting in KZN over 2 days, and they will be discussing their policy conference, or rather their policies in this policy conference. My first question to you, when it comes to your expectations of this policy conference, do you anticipate that it will really be centered surrounding the issues of coalitions for next year's general elections? At the same time, what is quite crucial is that multi-party charter pact.
The key points of these discussions, this is, as you've in your introduction you already referred to it, that there are differences of opinion within the IFP, especially from the youth brigade side.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are also other issues that they want to emphasize, which is not so much about coalition or cooperation, but about what are the policy issues that the IFP is identified with. And as he indicated, it's very much matters that are affecting the population, the inhabitants of KwaZulu-Natal directly. Load shedding, corruption, economic development, and what they will most possibly add is the natural disasters that they've been affected by, and all these matters, and that they want to present themselves based on the sort of the wave of successes in KwaZulu-Natal against especially the ANC, to try to maintain that momentum or to build it up even more. Given the fact that there's a lot of predictions that the ANC might lose its provincial majority, 50% plus one, in KwaZulu-Natal. So it creates definitely an opportunity for the KZN, for the IFP in KwaZulu-Natal.
And of course, Professor, you spoke a bit earlier on about the youth brigade within the IFP, and you'd remember that this year during that multi-party charter pact, they showed a lot of discontentment towards the signing of this pact. Do you think that this is something that they'd also want to bring up once more to clarify the party's standing when it comes to this multi-party pact, especially when the party prepares for the elections next year?
Yes, they've already indicated that is something that they have to clarify. I think it's not unique to the IFP. I think most members of this alliance, multi-party charter, have problems to explain to their members what exactly is the nature of this grouping, whether it is indeed a coalition, is it just an alliance, is it something that is a commitment towards a coalition after the election. That is not clear to most people or supporters. To the leaders themselves, it appears to be more clear. But I think what will be emphasized by all these parties, but specifically now by the IFP, is the fact that they will not be campaigning or participating in next year's election in terms of a new entity with a new name. They will still continue with their own identity as the IFP. They will campaign as the IFP with their own candidates. And only after the election, once the results are known, then the talks about how a coalition will be formed, and if it is indeed possible to do so. But given the fact that it's actually new for all South Africans, it is something that is very difficult for them to explain to them, because it's not yet the experience, especially of people in KwaZulu-Natal.
And coming to the people of KwaZulu-Natal, recently in the by-elections, we saw the IFP there doing very well in those elections. Do you think that if they're on this path when it comes to by-elections, that it can actually win them the KwaZulu-Natal province?
Well, I don't think they will necessarily win it on their own. And that is why this notion of coalitions are very relevant for KwaZulu-Natal. I think for this next year's election, if the ANC loses their majority, it's most likely that there will be a provincial coalition also. That is interesting because KwaZulu-Natal doesn't necessarily have the same political dynamics as, for example, Gauteng or the Free State or some of the other provinces. So it might be that such a coalition will look different from coalitions in other parts of the country. So that's all part of the unique nature of this politics and why this event for the IFP is so important, because as you indicated, the IFP in the last, let's say, 6-7 years have actually turned around the trend. Since 1994, there was a very consistent decline in IFP support in KwaZulu-Natal, from the majority party to first the coalition, and then they went into opposition. They've turned that around. They are starting to win new support from the ANC and also from other groups. And I think this makes it quite significant for them and a very, very important election next year.
How significant is this policy conference as we head, to 2024, especially when they've just lost their founding leader, Mangosuthu Buthelezi?
If one compares it, for example, with the policy conference of the ANC or even of the DA, I think it is less important, because what it is in essence, it's a preparation for the election manifesto. So what they are actually going to do is to decide how are they going to present the election manifesto, what will be the key issues that will be included in that. So it's not so much about completely new policies that they are going to formulate. It is rather about identifying the policies and how they want to position themselves or articulate those positions specifically with respect to the next election. So it is completely aimed at the election. It is not a policy conference standing on its own feet to a large extent, as we've seen with other parties.
Professor, thank you so much for your time this evening. That is Professor Dirk Kotze. He's from the Department of Political Sciences at the University of South Africa, just giving us his insight there when it comes to that IFP policy conference, which is underway. It wraps up tomorrow.